and you have the floor.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I'm so honored to represent the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, or USCIRF, where I'm able to serve as chair this year. And I'd like to thank you, the Institute of Diplomacy and Human Rights, for hosting this summit, and of course, for my esteemed panelists. Today, I'd like to highlight the value of promoting international religious freedom, share a brief history of USCIRF and other institutions and tools that promote freedom of religion or belief in foreign policy, and explain how we use international human rights standards, especially Article 18, which, as you heard, is so beautiful, of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in our work. Religious freedom is under serious and sustained pressure from much of the globe, from Afghanistan to China, from Iraq to Sudan, Nigeria, Vietnam, Russia to Turkey. Promoting and protecting this fundamental right has never been more challenging. But at the same time, protecting this right has never been more important. Because religious freedom is so central to human identities, studies show that societal well-being suffers when it is unprotected. Politically, religious freedom abuses are linked with the absence of democracy and the presence of abuses of other human rights, such as freedom of expression, association, and assembly. Religion can be a driver of dangerous conflict, and peace and security suffers whenever religious freedom is abused. There's also an association between a lack of religious freedom and the presence of violent religious extremism. Economically, religious persecution can destabilize communities and further marginalize the persecuted. Recognizing the vital importance of the freedom of religion or belief, Congress passed the International Religious Freedom Act of 1998, also known as IRFA. This law was enacted to elevate religious freedom to be a higher priority in U.S. policy. It explicitly provides that the U.S. policy include condemnation of violations of religious freedom and assists other governments in the promotion of this important right. To this aim, the law created a range of U.S. government tools to implement this policy. It created government institutions to focus on freedom of religion or belief abroad, which includes USCIRF, then also the Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom at the State Department. IRFA also requires monitoring and reporting on religious freedom violations and established consequences for the worst violators. These consequences include the State Department's Country of Particular Concern, or the CPC list, and the Special Watch List, designations for governments that engage in or tolerate particularly severe or severe violations of religious freedom. Within this framework of IRFA, USCIRF was created as an independent, bipartisan U.S. government body to unflinchingly monitor religious freedom conditions worldwide, laser focused on religious freedom, using international standards as a guidepost, and to make recommendations for U.S. policy. To fulfill this mandate, USCIRF has 9 commissioners appointed by the president and the congressional leadership of both political parties. USCIRF commissioners are private citizens, each appointed for a 2-year term and eligible for a second 2-year term. We come from different political parties, different faiths and professional backgrounds, in different parts of the country, yet we all agree, regardless of our background or political positions, that religious freedom is important for everyone, everywhere, and we need to shine a light on the severe abuses that so many individuals of all faiths or of none suffer for exercising their right to religious freedom. USCIRF calls out religious freedom violations and issues our findings and recommendations for U.S. policy through press releases, op-eds, reports throughout the year, and our annual report each spring. Our annual report covers around 25 countries, typically those with severe violations. USCIRF is able to engage on these issues globally because we use that international standard to monitor religious freedom violations. We are not pushing an American standard or an American notion of these values, but instead our work is tethered to that, as you heard, Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and other international human rights treaties. For example, USCIRF advocates for the repeal of blasphemy laws worldwide, as these laws violate the freedom of religion or belief as enshrined in international human rights treaties. Religious freedom includes the right to express a full range of thoughts and beliefs, including those that others might find blasphemous. Laws prohibiting blasphemy, by definition, place limits on speech and impede free expression over discourse concerning religion. Further, these laws aim to protect religions, but human rights laws protect individual believers, not beliefs. In some countries, such as Pakistan, blasphemy laws aim to support the majority religion in a way that is impermissible, in that it discriminates against other groups. Pursuant to international standards, USCIRF also advocates for the freedom of religion or belief for all. We stand with those of all faiths or no faith at all, as it is rarely, if ever, the case that just one religious group is persecuted in a given country or area. It is essential to our work that we speak out against any abuse of freedom of religion or belief. To that aim, USCIRF has 2 projects that shine a light on diverse victims of religious persecution: the Freedom of Religion or Beliefs Victims List and our Religious Freedom of Conscience project. These projects provide faces of the victims in these countries that we're reporting on and tell their stories with the hope of improving the situation and drawing attention to religious freedom conditions around the globe. We recognize in our work that human rights norms are universal, indivisible, interdependent, and interrelated, which has allowed us to be on the cutting edge of religious freedom issues and push the US government and others to consider the intersection of religious freedom with other rights. For example, USCIRF started an international conversation on how women's rights and religious freedom are complementary. In 2017, recognizing that there was an entrenched misperception that women's rights to equality and religious freedom are clashing rights, we looked more deeply into the complexities and synergies between the rights of women and girls and religious freedom to help dispel that misperception. With that brief overview of our work and the importance of international standards in our advocacy for freedom of religion or belief, let me offer you a sincere thanks for coming and being interested in this important topic. And I'm looking forward to hearing my colleagues and further answering questions and having a discussion. Thank you so much.